I'm not a cop, but I am a friend of cops and their families. Matter of fact, I sent out an email to 6 of our close friends who are police officer families, and I asked the wives questions. Very interesting, the responses I got. I'll share with you as the course of the show goes on, some of the things I learned. But one of the things they were afraid of is their husbands becoming cynical. Some of those that were like just 2-3 years or less in the force, oh, I hope he doesn't become cynical because all the bad people he sees.
And isn't it interesting, because that distrust is what keeps you alive. But it comes with a price tag, because then you start distrusting everybody. And after 26 years, I mean, how do you see the world and people different?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think there's a lot to what you said. You do become cynical, and I know that over the years I've become more cynical, and it's an issue that I've had with my wife.
It's not just age, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Particularly as an undercover agent, most law enforcement officers see the world black and white. Right. And as an undercover agent, we sort of see the grays, because we have to kind of connect with the bad guy in a way that maybe you don't want to, but we have to find the good in him. And I think that sort of plays over into my real life, that even in the cynical situations, I can sort of find the good in everyone, because that's what was able to force that connection between me and the bad guy.
And it kept you alive, frankly.
Absolutely.
Playing that gray zone kept you alive.
Right. And when any street cop's going to tell you that the way you survive is sizing up people quickly. And I think I had that ability too. We laughed that I had the gift of discernment, but it was discerning the good and the bad guys quickly. And sometimes you're wrong, but it's better to err on the side of being wrong and thinking that this is the bad guy.
Okay,
Right.
but as a wife, I mean, I would understand, and I would totally appreciate you being out in the world and stuff, and being on, and always knowing exits and who's doing what and all that type of thing. But when you come inside the house, it's like, I want you. I don't want you sizing things up. And so how on earth do you turn that off?
Boy, that's a tough one. There's a book out, Women Are Like Spaghetti, Men Are Like Waffles, and I think that you have to be able to compartmentalize, and you have to be able to leave that mask in the patrol car or in the undercover car, and then when you come into the house, you are the husband, you are the father.
Yeah. One of the young wives actually said in her email back to me, she says, I just wish he realized that he's not a cop all the time, so he comes home, he doesn't talk to my 3-year-old like a criminal, and just put him in his place. Like, I mean, because there's a lot of pressures of how do you get out of that, right? Now, when you're coming home, Debbie, 34 years married to her, but all along the way, did you open up much? How much did you talk about it? How much did you share with her versus just keep it to yourself?
I was really fortunate, because even before I joined the FBI, I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. And prior to getting out of the Marine Corps, I was seeking a job either in the CIA or the FBI. And those were the 2 agencies I was interested in.
Did she know all this before she married you?
She actually thought she was going to marry a lawyer that was going to be wealthy and she could live in
And that wasn't part of your con?
No,
okay.
no. But in interviewing with the CIA, and it was so exciting. The very first guy I ever met had a scar from here to here, and I thought, this is the excitement I'm looking for. And he was the first interview that I had in the CIA. But in one of my interviews, the guy told me, he said, you have to share as much as you can with your wife, because when you're out at 2 a.m. in the morning, she's going to think that you're having an affair unless there's the trust that she knows you're still working.
Wow.
So I figured, hey, if the CIA can share secrets with their spouse, then as an FBI agent, I can.
Were there ever things that you weren't supposed to or weren't allowed to share with her?
I think there may have been times that I stepped over the line and I shared more than I should. I wouldn't give her the names of specific targets, but I would say, look, I'm going to lunch today. I'm undercover, I'm going to the lunch. Or I'd come home and say, hey, we were lunching in Beverly Hills, I was with the target, and guess who walked in? Some actor or something like that. So I would share as much as I could with my wife, and I shared as much as I could with my children. I would maybe downplay some of the danger.
Okay, I would hope to shout.
Yeah.
Those are little kids.
But with the wives too, 3 of them actually said, he opens up, but he doesn't tell me everything because he thinks he doesn't want me to worry so much. So you were trying to do the same.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest fear of any spouse, is that this unknown that your husband or your wife is out there on the street, riding patrol, doing car stops, doing family disputes. I mean, those are the worst situations.
Because we're scared to death for you. The last thing we want is a phone call or another officer coming to the front door.
Certainly. Now, I used to joke with my wife that I was worth more to her dead than I was alive because of
You sound like my husband.
the life insurance, but you know,
No.
yeah, it was.
One quick answer. We got to get this one. Debbie, frustrations. What would you say the biggest frustration being married to you was? Give it to me in a sentence.
First was money. I took a pay cut when I joined the FBI, so that was frustrating. I think envy on her part of the excitement that I was seeing and that she wasn't finding necessarily the same type of excitement, and thinking, how can I compete with a husband who's wearing a Rolex watch and driving a Porsche, and she's at home changing diapers. And I think third, because of some of our situations, I mean, I actually took a prostitute to the church picnic one time.
Well, isn't that
so
interesting?
I have my wife and my 2 children, and the prostitute and her child, because we'd had to place her in the witness protection program. And here I am bringing all these people to the church picnic, and my wife wasn't real pleased, but she...
Oh, you have a golden gem in Debbie, let me tell you, to be putting up with. Those of you as first responders, we're not just talking about surviving your lifestyle, we're talking about thriving. It can be fabulous and it can be wonderful, because those you should be protecting and serving are those closest to you, your wife and your kids. You've got to stay with us, because Bob's going to talk to us about why he had 2 phones in his house, the good phone, the good guy's phone, and the bad guy's phone.